Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth is Making a Comeback, a production of LibertyNation.com. I'm Lisa K. Donner, and on today's episode, New Mexico's governor does an about-face and begs for border help, and the effort to stop a privately funded section of the border has been stymied as the construction gets underway again. Our Red State correspondent Sarah Cowgill has that scoop. It was a national E.F. Hutton moment. Robert Mueller spoke and the nation fell silent. We'll have the upshot of his 9-minute talk with Chief Political Correspondent Graham J. Noble. President Trump signals he's had it with the Democrats and unleashes the dogs. Our Washington political columnist Tim Donner has all the salient points on that. And finally, an Oregon judge goes a little wacky and orders a man to do a show and tell about Sihks. All this and more coming up right now. It's true, some stories just fly higher than others, such as the case with our coverage of the New Mexico border wall controversy. Earlier this week, LibertyNation.com reported that the governor, Michelle Grisham, did an about-face asking Washington for help in dealing with a genuine crisis at the New Mexico border. Then a privately funded section of the wall was being built, but then it was shut down by a New Mexico mayor, only to have that overturned. National correspondent Sarah Cowgill wrote about this, and readers by the tens of thousands flocked to it. Joining us now for more on the story is Sarah Cowgill, our national correspondent. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Lisa. It's always good to be with you.
Well, you've got some context going on down in New Mexico. Can you give us the latest? We've got an on again, off again, on again, off again wall.
Yes, we seem to have a on again, it's a go, it's not a go, it's a cease and desist, all in a span of 3 days. Right now, we have some people embedded on the ground who are reporting back to us that the machinery is on. It is a go. There's a rally being held currently with the GoFundMe page founder, Brian Colfage, and a whole host of big lineup names down there watching the wall be built. They're moving fast. They expect it done in 3 days.
Just backtracking a little bit. So we had the approvals, and then the mayor shut them down. Could you tell our readers a little bit about that?
Well, according to Steve Bannon and Kolbach, former Secretary of State of Kansas, who is on the board of We Build the Wall, all the permits have been in place for weeks. This is not something that they just surprised people with. According to the mayor, it didn't fit a city ordinance, which nothing can be built over, no fences could be built over 6 feet tall. And he also requested that there be an environmental impact study done. But all of the people on the other side of the aisle said, we've already done everything that we were asked to do.
So basically you're saying the mayor shut them down?
The mayor shut them down Tuesday with a cease and desist. And today, the machinery is whirring and dust is flying and it's getting done.
I also read a quote from somebody whose land was that this was on, and they were for it.
Mr. Allen, he is co-owner and part of the American Brick Building Company, which is where the site is going up now. And he had a very strong, very heartfelt message that, you know, they've been putting up with this too long, and as Americans, that we all need to get behind this.
All right, now you wrote a story last week about the New Mexico governor changing her tune. What is the story on that?
Michelle Lujan Grisham came into office in October 2018. Well, actually took office in 2019 and just turned the state upside down with really radical left policies. In February, she called the border crisis a made-up charade by President Trump, and in a big flashy splash of news coverage sent the National Guard packing. Since then, her state has been overrun. The patriots are fired up. Citizens are going out of their way to try to impeach her. But she finally had to admit there's a crisis, hat in hand, went to the swamp to slog around and try to find some federal money to reimburse the cities that not only are they poor to begin with, but are just overwhelmed and going deeper into the red now that all these illegals are in their towns and communities. They can't take it anymore.
Have you been able to gauge the response from Washington? Do you think they'll step up to help the good governor or let her flounder in the political waters?
Well, I'm not sure. It's been radio silence out of D.C. this week. So until somebody, is brave enough to say, yes, we're going to cover your butts and reimburse your cities and towns, or if they say, no, you got yourself into this, get yourself out of it. The problem is you can't let the New Mexico people suffer for the stupid decisions of their governor. So we'll see. I think it will depend on if, she starts playing the right tune with President Trump, and that is secure the darn border already.
Do you think it would be too much to say we're witnessing sort of a border civil war going on in New Mexico?
New Mexico is the hottest spot right now in the nation politically. You've got thousands upon thousands of people circulating recall petitions for the governor. And the state is a supermajority of Democrats. So, even the Secretary of State is tossing out these petitions and saying, oh, well, you didn't dot your I or cross your T. They're getting really mean and nasty, and the people are fed up. And they're growing, they're loud. Thousands upon thousands of people called the mayor's office in Sunland Park. They flooded the office on Wednesday with phone calls, and those patriots are being credited with turning the tide and having that wall go up today.
Do you think that this will pave the way for more of these types of privately funded enterprises?
Oh, absolutely. If this rally today does any good, it will be to fundraise some more cash. They already have 2 more places planned to build segments of the wall. They're about $6 to $8 million for about a half a mile, and so eventually that $23 million that they've raised will run out. But it's setting a precedent, and people are behind this. They are really solidly behind this national security effort.
So this is really a victory for the people of New Mexico who want a wall.
It is. It's a political victory. They want that governor gone. If they have their way, they're gonna rewrite history right here and right now.
All right, Sarah. What is your prediction in terms of whether this will be allowed to finish, or they'll try to shut it down again?
Oh, they'll try. There'll be something somewhere along the way. This one will get done. Today's wall will get done in the next 2 or 3 days, and then they'll move on to the next location. And wherever they go, and they've been really hush-hush about it to try to avoid a lot of national news coverage, which, gets people all fired up in all different ways. And they didn't want that. They just wanted to be able to do what they needed to do legally. So they're going to be quiet about it, but they're going to the next place this next coming week. And when that's close to being done or done, we'll probably hear about that too. But I'm sure that as soon as the news leaks out, their fears are going to be founded. ACLU will probably come in with, this humanitarian crisis after another one, or the local governments, if they're run, by liberal left Democrats, they might try to stop it as well. So we'll see. The good news is the We Build the Wall people have a pretty good lineup of people on the board, and they have money and attorneys, which in most cases, these little citizens groups, they don't have those options. But the We Built the Wall people have the options, and that'll be good for them.
All right, thank you so much for your fabulous original reporting on LibertyNation.com and for your fine contacts out there in New Mexico. Stay on it, Sarah. Yeah, stay on it for us, Sarah. Thanks for joining us on Truth.
Thank you, Lisa.
Special Counsel Robert Mueller finally decided to break his silence and address the American public. In doing so, he seemed to go out of his way not to clear President Trump of any criminal charges. It was a classic Swampian speech with something for everyone, especially those who want to play gotcha with the 45th President of the United States. Joining me now with all the gory details is Liberty Nation's Chief Political Correspondent Graham Noble. Welcome, Graham.
Good morning, Lisa.
Graham, am I right in saying Mueller's little talk only served to gin up more heat with very little light on the subject?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Obviously, anything that he said was going to be interpreted the way that different people want it to interpret it, depending on what side of this little conflict they're on. But I think Mueller's primary objective, I would have to say, in calling the conference was actually just to disabuse Congress of the notion that he is going to appear before some committee and provide them with any information or answer any questions that fall outside of the scope of his report. As he said, my report is my testimony.
Right. Mueller claims to have nothing more than what's already in his 448-page report. You read it. Do you find that statement to be true thus far?
Yes. Well, I think it's true in terms of, I'm sure during the course of his investigation, he probably unearthed some what you might describe as exculpatory evidence, which of course was no good to him when he's trying to essentially act as a prosecutor. And of course, so that evidence wasn't in his report, but I think everything else that he found out, it's in there.
Well, it's interesting you brought that up because Mueller seems to be hiding behind this constitutional rule that does not permit sitting presidents to be prosecuted for a federal crime.
Right, yeah, that's actually a Department of Justice, OLC, Office of Legal Counsel opinion that says that a sitting president cannot be indicted. And I think there's a lot of perhaps misunderstanding in terms of people are saying that what Barr said about that rule and what Mueller said about it, they're actually there is a conflict, and I believe that's being misunderstood by people.
He states that Russia launched, quote, a concerted attack, unquote, on the American public political system. But aren't we still in the dark as to how this whole kerfluffle began?
I think we are very much so, and it's interesting to note that Volume 1 of the Mueller report, which is concerned with the question of Russia's interference, or if you like, their disinformation campaign that they were waging during the 2016 election, that's where the vast majority of the redactions in the Mueller report are. The redactions mostly pertain to the ways in which Russia attempted to wage their disinformation war. And so I think largely, yeah, I'm not sure that we're any the wiser really about how much and how effective this Russian interference really was.
All in all, Mueller's speech did little to calm the restless natives out for Trump blood, wouldn't you say?
All in all, I would agree with that, and I think no matter what he said, that would have been the case. I just think Trump's opponents are out for blood. They're out to get him, and nothing Mueller could possibly have said in his little press conference would have made any difference, and they always would have managed to pick something out of it to advance their case for the president is lying, he's obstructing justice, he's trampling on the Constitution, he's a monster, we've got to impeach him. They would have done so anyway, no matter what Mueller said.
That's Graham J. Noble, Chief Political Correspondent for LibertyNation.com. Thanks for joining us on Truth Today, Graham.
Thank you.
The GOP has been chomping at the bit for President Trump to declassify documents relating to an Obama administration surveillance of the 2016 presidential campaign of Donald Trump. The president, meanwhile, has been quite measured and circumspect in terms of releasing all the ugly details. But now it seems the gloves are off and Trump is ready to unleash the dogs on the dirty dealings that may have gone on during the previous administration. Joining me now is my man of 34 years and Liberty Nation's Washington political columnist, Tim Donner. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Lise. Good to be here.
Well, it does seem like the president has had just about enough of the Democrats saying he's the one involved in a cover-up. The last straw appeared to be when Nancy Pelosi issued those very remarks and Mr. Trump walked out. Do you think Pelosi expected that kind of response from Trump, or was she caught off guard?
You know, my best guess would be, without getting inside her head, that she did expect that. And I think it was deliberate because the base of the Democratic Party is demanding impeachment. But Nancy Pelosi, as the leader of the party, knows that impeachment is a real political liability, especially given that independents, forget Democrats and Republicans, they're both dug in on opposite sides. But independents in the middle find the idea of impeachment not something that they want at all as we face a presidential election next year. I think the voters would rather decide for themselves whether to give Trump a second term or not. But I think she knew exactly what she was doing. I mean, when you accuse someone of a criminal cover-up right before you have a meeting with him to negotiate a deal, what do you think's going to happen? I think she knew, and this was her way of telling her base, look, I'm doing a lot, I'm calling it a cover-up. She repeated twice that it was a cover-up, but provided no details. This was a sop to the Democrats' radical base.
Well, I think you're right. It's clear Pelosi's base wants Trump's head and is calling for impeachment. But Pelosi has read the political tea leaves and doesn't seem willing to go that route. So do you think this is her end run?
Well, I think this is what she feels is the most effective thing that she can do. And it's not a half-bad strategy because the Democrats are launching 20 investigations of the president, his administration, his family, his past business practices. And that will allow them to call witnesses hostile to the Trump administration, which can provide a lot of dirt, which can be used in the re-election campaign, could make Trump look bad. But he's not going to cooperate. I mean, he said, I will not allow anyone to continue this farce of a probe into a Russian collusion scenario which never unfolded. It never happened. Not only did not Trump participate in it, but it never happened. And not only that, but the Russians, as revealed in the Mueller report, 10 times tried to lure the Trump administration into a collusion scheme, and they rebuffed. The Trump campaign rebuffed the Russians. So that's about all that you can say. But this is the best they can do. Investigate, get all the fruits of their witch hunts and their fishing expeditions without the political liability of impeachment.
In your very popular article on LibertyNation.com, you write, quote, New York Times columnist Maureen Dowd, prominent among the West Side Chablis and Brie elitists who awaken every day with a headache at the very thought of this president, described their dilemma. Dowd wrote, quote, my head hurts puzzling over whether Trump is just a big blowhard who's flailing around or a sinister genius laying traps to get himself impeached to animate the base ahead of the election. So isn't Dowd echoing Pelosi that impeachment won't be a good idea?
Well, she probably is, but you know, Maureen Dowd there, who's a humorous columnist, more humorous than most people on the left, but she reveals the level of cognitive dissonance that the Democrats have been undergoing since Trump was elected. Because on the one hand, as reflected by Maureen Dowd, they believe him to be an incompetent buffoon. On the other hand, they believe him to be an evil genius who masterminded a plot to steal the presidency of the United States and then cover it up so that it wasn't even detectable to a gang of bloodthirsty investigators hired by Robert Mueller to uncover it. So which is it? Is he an incompetent buffoon or is he an evil genius? And I think they don't know which of those things is true, so they're flailing around as they have been for more than 2 years, looking for something, anything, that can bring Trump down. But Trump says, I won't cooperate with subpoenas. He walked out of the meeting with Nancy Pelosi because she'd accused him of a crime right before that. Trump is in no mood to carry on this paper-thin veneer of partisanship. And when he decided to unleash the dogs, as it said in the headline to my story, and allow Attorney General William Barr to declassify documents related to Obama administration spying on the Trump campaign, when he did that, it was basically saying, we're done here, Nancy. Go ahead and impeach me. Go ahead, make my day.
You mentioned a number of possibilities that could come out of this disclassification, including 1, the trifecta of Brennan, Clapper, and Comey getting into some hot water. 2, McCabe, Strzok, and Page may be revealed as traitorous. Or 3, basically all hell could break loose if the truth comes out about who did what and when to set up Trump as the bad guy. When do you think all this will come down the pike?
Well, multiple investigations in the Justice Department are ramping up as we speak. Certainly, the Inspector General in the Justice Department, Michael Horowitz, has been working on the issue of the 4 FISA warrants that were issued, 1 original and 3 renewals, to spy on the Trump campaign. William Barr has called what the Democrats did spying. He did so famously in a congressional hearing, and he's hired a highly thought of lead investigator into the investigation being run by William Barr himself. So we're gonna learn pretty soon. But I think it's important for people to be patient and to wait, because we will find out what went on here. We will find out from the Inspector General, from the Attorney General, and I think we should wait to see what the predicate was for spying on the Trump campaign, because we know that there was spying or surveillance or whatever you want to call it. The question is, was there a legitimate predicate for it? Because if there wasn't, Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Strzok and Page are in for a whole lot of public embarrassment, and perhaps a lot more than that.
All right. Thank you very much. That's Tim Donner, Washington's political columnist for LibertyNation.com. Thanks for your insight, Tim, and I do hope you'll make dinner tonight. And now for this week's parting shot. Without a doubt, judges across this vast land of ours have a great deal of latitude in handing down sentences. As the ones who have the final say in issuing the punishment to a guilty party, they've been known over the years to conjure up a few odd ideas, perhaps to order a penance that they believe best fits the crime. Now it appears an Oregon judge has blown past his colleagues and come up with a novel sentencing idea. But first, a little weird punishment primer. In Ohio, a woman who decided to drive around a stopped school bus was ordered to stand in the street with a sign saying, "Only an idiot would drive on the sidewalk to avoid a school bus." In Texas, a woman convicted of neglecting her horses got 3 days of bread and water in jail, followed by another 27 days in the slammer. In Florida, a man accused of a domestic crime was ordered to, quote, buy his wife flowers, unquote, and take her out for an evening of bowling and dinner. There are many more of these types of kooky punishments, but you get the idea. Now for the latest. A judge in Oregon ordered a man to attend a Sikh parade and report back to the court his findings. In handing down the forced religious cultural education, Marion County Judge Lindsay Partridge said, quote, "Bigotry is the result of ignorance. All of us are able to learn and benefit from cultures in our community," unquote. It all began when Andrew Ramsey walked into a convenience store to buy a pack of cigarettes. The Sikh store clerk would not oblige without first seeing some identification. Ramsey didn't feel like complying, and the altercation turned physical as the irate customer pulled the clerk's beard and ripped off his turban before landing a punch or two. It appears the good judge is hell-bent on teaching the perpetrator a lesson. In addition to the required Sikh parade attendance, Mr. Ramsey was given 180 days in jail and 3 years probation. He was also ordered to undergo alcohol and drug treatment. as well as a mental health evaluation. In courtroom parlance, one could say Judge Partridge threw the book at Ramsey. Sikhism is the world's fifth largest organized religion, founded in the 15th century by Guru Nanak. His teachings do not include the concepts of heaven or hell, but rather a spiritual oneness with the great spirit Akal. Sikhs are not permitted alcohol or tobacco, although they do meditate with the aid of cannabis. And the cutting of hair, that's a big no-no for those who have undergone the Sikh initiation ceremony of Amrit. But why go into all of this now when we can simply wait for Mr. Ramsey's report following his mandatory Sikh parade attendance at the Das Mes Darbar Sikh Temple in Salem, Oregon? Well, I guess the moral of the story, when a clerk asks you for ID, just hand it over, lest you summon up the laws of bad karma. Or perhaps you could just stay the hell out of Oregon. And that's my parting shot. And that's it for this edition of Truth is Making a Comeback. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. And of course, hit our website, libertynation.com, where facts matter. I'm Lisa K. Donner. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week.
Truth is making a comeback. Visit us at libertynation.com.